By the time you're watching this video, the Pistons will have selected Cade Cunningham #1 overall in the 2021 NBA draft. And while that fact is going to be what I use to make this video hopefully do well, really I'm just using the hype around Cade Cunningham as a way to actually have an excuse to talk about the Pistons in a video that won't bomb as it normally would talking about the Pistons. Because the Detroit Pistons are one of those teams that, mostly due to the influence of my friend Motown Noah, I have gradually become more and more invested in, to the point where I am very excited about the future of that team, and I quite want to talk about it and haven't had much opportunity. So I'm using Cade Cunningham being drafted by this team as an excuse to talk about why the future of the Detroit Pistons is very, very bright, and it was already going to be pretty bright pre-Cade Cunningham. But yeah, that's what this video is going to be. Let's talk about the future of the Pistons. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then please subscribe. I am trying to hit 200K on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. The Detroit Pistons are a team that I have actually become somewhat of a fan of. Now, don't tell this to my father, who is still bitter about the bad boy Pistons from well over 30 years ago, but I actually kind of like the Detroit Pistons as a Bulls fan because I have no connection to that rivalry, being that it happened over 20 years before I was born. Wait, no, it's 10 years. It was the late 80s. It was not, god damn it. Now I made it from an old joke to I'm 10 years old. Yeah, 10 years or around that before I was born. Let's talk about some notable players on this team. First of all, Jeremy Grant. You guys already know, at least I think most of you do, that I was a fan of the guy back when he was on the Sixers and finally actually getting opportunity, and especially a fan of him when he went to the OKC Thunder and he started hitting threes. I have been a fan of Jeremy since before he even had the year that he did this year. And he took such a massive leap because he went from this really good role player that I thought was already worth $20 million a year to a 22 plus point per game scorer while still being that amazing defensive player. So he just added on to what I already thought was an amazing package, and now he's actually a bargain of a contract. Could his efficiency be better? Sure, but as a third scorer on a championship team, he is on that level, and I never would have thought that previous. Saddiq Bey was the #1 most standout rookie of the Detroit Pistons last year as he broke multiple three-point records. He is a fantastic outside shooter as a power forward. His overall game has room to grow. Defensively, I think he has a lot of upside. And offensively, as the season progressed, his ability inside the three-point line progressively got better, and I do think there is reason to believe he can be a 18 point per game scorer at his peak while also being a pretty damn good defensive player. So he's going to be a very valuable player. At the very least, he's going to be one of the best 3-and-D forwards in the league for a decade. Killian Hayes was disappointing this year. I will absolutely give you that. However, I do think that is mostly due to injury and inconsistency in role, partially because of injury, partially because the Pistons experimenting. So as a result, I think Killian still has plenty of reason to have belief in him. He's far from someone that I'd be giving up on. Hey, Nicholas, I need you to convince the people that Killian Hayes shouldn't be given up on yet.
There's got to be something said about a guy who is only 19 years old. Actually, I'm sorry, as of this recording, he did turn 20 today. Today is Killian Hayes' 20th birthday.
Happy birthday, Killian.
Happy birthday, Killian Hayes. I know that the first 7 games of the season that he played were a little weird. I think we fell in love really quick with the side steps and the step backs that he would do. But that shit got... I can swear, right?
No, you can't fucking swear.
Okay, that shit got old real quick. Like, it was cute at first, but once the shots just kept rimming out, it got really annoying. Then he comes back from the hip injury all these months later, and Detroit is trying to utilize him in an off-ball role. Now, this was calculated and it was experimental because, A, we kind of just wanted to integrate him back in the offense without trying to throw him back into the fire that we did in the first place. And B, we wanted to see how he could play off ball, assuming Cade Cunningham was on the way. The same way that we did with running Isaiah and Mason Plumlee at the 4-5 to see if Mobley and Stewart could work. We did that with Killian in an off-ball role. So he was involved in a lot of like Spain pick and rolls and stuff like that. And the one thing that he has going for him, mechanically speaking, or at least on the offensive end, I should just say that, period, on the offensive end, he's still an amazing passer, right? He's still really, really good at that. He had the highlight against Oklahoma City, that half-court bounce pass that had some spin on it to Sadiq Bey at the basket. Defensively, he closed the season really strong. He doesn't have a problem keeping guys in front of him. He's a pest. He can swipe it from anybody. The biggest thing with him this next season is, can he actually not be a spot-up shooter, but can he just hit shots, period? And I think he showed some interesting strides. I would say that one thing that really concerned me early on that he immediately cut out was he would dribble into the paint with no plan. Like he would dribble himself into complete chaos and then try to pass out of it, and it was a turnover almost every single time. Or the ball would get deflected, it would go out of bounds. Like it was just always gross. And a lot of the things that pissed us off earlier in the season, he cut out the second time he came back because there was more continuity to the offense. Everybody was a little more familiar with each other, and there was chemistry that had been built. So finishing the season the way that he did, having an entire offseason, adding a guy like Cade Cunningham, there's a lot to be excited for. Yeah, we're going to have the best-looking lineup in the NBA.
All right, well, I wanted like a minute, but that works.
I got a lot to say. Cut it out.
Yeah, I know. That's what Rudy's job is. Do your job, Rudy.
Rudy, say subscribe to, I don't know, put up a, I don't know. Hi, Rudy.
All right, bye, Nicholas. There you go. Lovely guy. Go subscribe to him. He asked me to call him during the Pistons video, so that's what that was. So that's way too much information on Killian Hayes. I was trying to summarize it quickly, but there you go. His fault the video's longer. Beef stew. Beef stew. Isaiah Stewart is genuinely one of my favorite, probably 20-ish favorite players in the league. I have this thing where I really, really like being the fan of a more niche player that I know that an individual fan base loves. It's why I'm all over TJ McConnell. It's why I was all over Jeremy Grant when he was on the Nuggets, on top of the other reasons. And it's why I'm all over, I should phrase this differently, right? It's why I am a big fan of Isaiah Stewart on the Detroit Pistons. Per 36, Isaiah Stewart averaged 13, 11, and 2 blocks on decent efficiency last year. In the 10 games where he played 29 or more minutes, he averaged 15.5 points, 9.9 rebounds, and 1.9 blocks. The guy is just straight up a good center. Good rebounder, good rim protector, really physical, good at setting screens, good at diving to the basket. He isn't the most athletic in the world, but he has good touch around the rim. Overall, Isaiah Stewart gets my stamp of approval by a mile. On top of that, he has shown flashes of being able to extend his game outside of what he's already done, which is that he has been a capable three-point shooter at times. It's hit or miss, and his overall percentage on the year is not great, but he's had a few games where he's hit 3 threes and stuff like that. He definitely has the numbers that suggest and the form that suggests that he could be a capable outside shooter throughout his career while being a good rebounder, good defender, good finisher. He's one of my favorite players, and that's only 70% because his nickname is Beef Stew. Last, but, well, I mean, actually, technically kind of least, no offense. It's the second round guy. Saban Lee was really good in his rookie year for a second round pick. Like, at the very least, being a second rounder and a guard in the NBA and being good, or at least an NBA player for sure, immediately is definitely achievement, and Saban Lee is going to be an NBA player for a decent amount of time, which getting that out of a second round pick is good. The Pistons last season had an amazing rebuild because On top of the fact that they had multiple young players and they hit on pretty much not, I guess Killian kind of muddies it, but to me, they hit on all of their picks because I think Killian is going to work out. They were 4 for 4 in the draft, essentially. They brought in Jeremy Grant for what now ends up being a cheap contract. And this year, they were actually competitive in moments where we saw flashes of a good team here. It wasn't an all disaster. They had competitive games against good teams, and they would still lose, which is the perfect way to tank. So now here enters Cade Cunningham, where the Pistons, after this great year of tanking and rebuilding, but also not sacrificing culture, I don't think, and not sacrificing like competitiveness somehow amongst that, they get the number 1 pick. They were rewarded with a number 1 pick, and they get to draft Cade Cunningham. Now, I do have to say, first of all, shout out to Troy Weaver because he has done a fantastic job rebuilding this team, unless he ends up trading Jeremy Grant or trading Cade Cunningham on draft night, in which case you didn't see this video. But otherwise, good job, Troy. What's great about this Pistons roster is that Cade and what he needs is here with the Pistons, and what the Pistons need is being provided by Cade Cunningham. So it is a perfect mix between the two. Perfect symbiotic relationship. That's what that means, right? I don't fucking know. The two biggest issues with this Pistons team this year was rim pressure and playmaking, both of which Cade Cunningham is pretty capable of providing, especially the former. The latter is the first one. The former, the playmaking. Now, on top of the fact that the Pistons need the playmaking, the Pistons also have good play finishers, and really the reason why the Pistons offense was rough this year was they had a lot of guys capable of finishing plays, but not a lot of guys capable of creating them. What I mean by that is they had some spot-up shooters, some guys who are good in pick and roll and pick and pop situations, but they weren't really in the position where guards were setting them up. Killian Hayes is really the only one capable as a playmaker, and he was out for half of the year and had other things that were keeping him off of the floor. Barring any kind of move happening, the starting lineup next year should be Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes, Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, and Beef Stew. Cade, as the lead ball handler, can run pick and rolls with Isaiah Stewart. He can run pick and pops with Sadiq Bey. On the fast break, Jeremy Grant is a target. He's a really good cutter, so he's a target there as well. He is going to be providing plenty of assists. He can even be a spot-up shooter at times. He's going to have his ISOs, which don't really play into it, but for the most part, that's a good fit there as well. Killian, I am confident, is going to be a pretty good spot shooter as soon as next season, and that will be another guy on the perimeter that you can pass it to. And another interesting thing about Killian is the fact that he's the playmaker that he is. Cade Cunningham won't be forced to be in that situation where he is dribbling the ball constantly, because Killian can be a primary initiator while Cade does some more off-ball stuff. The Pistons last year were a middle-of-the-pack defensive team. Cade Cunningham is not going to make that worse as a 6'8 guard. His defense isn't the number one thing that stands out about him, but he's definitely, as far as I'm aware, it's not a problem area for him. But I think the offensive skill set that Cade Cunningham will provide from day one will elevate this team's offense from in the bottom 5 in the league towards around more middle-of-the-pack. So you combine middle-of-the-pack defense and middle-of-the-pack offense, and suddenly you have a not bad basketball team in the span of 1 year. I genuinely believe that, and this is a similar situation to the Memphis Grizzlies when they drafted Ja Morant. I said back then that if Ja Morant has a rookie year that's as good or just a little bit better than what we expect of him as a rookie, the Grizzlies will be competing for a playoff spot, and then they eventually got eliminated in the play-in in the bubble that year. But they were the 8th seed until that happened, and then they obviously made the playoffs this year. I think it's a very similar situation where this is a Pistons team that was previously not good at all. The year before Ja Morant was drafted, there's a reason the Grizzlies had the 2nd pick in the draft, even though they did move up a few spots. But I think it's a bad team that is just in the position where they need this type of player to come in, and assuming Cade Cunningham is as good as a rookie as he's supposed to be, we will see the Pistons make the playoffs next year, or at the very least, be in the play-in tournament, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But Cade Cunningham and this roster is literally just a match made in heaven, to where genuinely I think this can be a playoff team next year without much doubt in that statement, assuming that Cade Cunningham lives up to expectations. If Cade is a bust, then well, different things will happen as a result, but I'm not expecting that. But yeah, can I also just say at the end here that, can we stop saying, like, I realize it's coming from a place of ignorance, but like people saying, oh, Cade Cunningham is cursed to be a Detroit Piston, let's save him from that poverty franchise. It's the reason why there's so many fucking trading the pick rumors right now, because the media just doesn't want a superstar prospect going to a team that they don't want to pay attention to. But the Pistons are genuinely a very good landing spot for Cade Cunningham, and Troy Weaver has done a good job managing that team. It's not as though it's like there's old management around, where the Pistons have been historically bad over the past few years, so therefore they're just never going to do what they need around Cade. Troy Weaver has done such a good job that I'm confident he will be able to put the pieces together for the years going forward, and the roster right now can be really good with Cade Cunningham. And my analogy there with Ja Morant and the Grizzlies, I'm not suggesting that it would be like a carry job where like Cade shows up and then now is the playoff team because Cade is that good, because Ja Morant wasn't doing a carry job on the Grizzlies back then. It's just a perfect match, and Cade is exactly what this team needs, and I think the Pistons are pretty much exactly what Cade needs. So shut the fuck up about saying that it sucks that the Pistons have the #1 pick, because it doesn't suck. Anyways, shout out to Rudy for editing this video. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music. Damn, that was a long video.